Hi, and welcome to this week's presentation on the DevOps Handbook. We are going to be talking about Chapter 5 this week. We are Group 7, Brittany, Herrera, Alexandra, Lozano, and Eddie Pincay. Chapter 5 is the selecting which value streams to start with. So this chapter actually gives a lot of good examples of companies that's had successes incorporating DevOps and how they went about approaching the transformation in the organization. So the first thing we need to do when we're working on implementing DevOps is we need to choose a value stream. Choosing a value stream not only dictates the difficulty of our transformation, but it dictates who will be involved in how we need to organize our teams and leaders. Michael and Betsy, the director of operations at Etsy, said, "We must pick our transformation projects carefully. When we are in trouble, we don't get very many shots. Therefore, we must carefully pick and then protect those improvement projects that will most improve the state of our organizations." This chapter gave an example about Nordstrom, Courtney Kissler. And so they were doing really good. They were staying, they had a big success rate for hitting schedule and budget and scope, but they decided not to just meet the cost. They wanted to optimize for speed, so they had 3 target areas they wanted to work on. They became very specific, and they had teams involved in those 3 areas, and they were able to not only meet their budget and the scope goals, but they were able to optimize with their speed as well because of how they implemented and how strategic they were with their goals. Okay, another thing this chapter talks about is the greenfield versus brownfield services. I like this picture here. So basically in the greenfield, you're going to be working on new projects, new software, things with like little restraints. It's usually something that's new or in the early stages of planning or implementation. And then the brownfield is like something older. It's when projects are existing or products or services, and they usually come with a lot of technical debt. A lot of people think that DevOps is mainly for greenfield services, and it's actually proven that a large percent of companies at some of these meetings have shown 60 or 70% of them have come from the brownfield services area. So the CSG 2013, they were able to increase reliability of their application and reduce code deployment from 2 weeks to less than 1 day. And then Etsy in 2009 made millions in revenue but barely survived the holidays. And they transformed almost every aspect of the organization and turned the company into one of the most admired organizations because of how they went about with DevOps. Okay. System of record and system of engagement. System of record, the ERP-like system that runs our businesses, like the financial reporting and HR. That's where the correctness of the transactions and data are paramount. And systems of engagement are like customer-facing or employee-facing systems, like e-commerce systems and productivity applications. Record versus engagement. Systems of record typically have a slower pace of change and often regulatory and compliance requirements. So Gartner research says this is type 1. Systems of engagement typically have a much higher pace of change to support the rapid feedback loops, and the Gartner calls these types 2. Okay, so how do you start getting DevOps into your organization? Well, it doesn't really just happen in one big bang. You have to start slowly because all organizations have a lot of different attitudes within the organization. New ideas are usually embraced by innovators, and while other people tend to be more conservative. So we want to start with the people that are innovators, because they're more likely to adapt. And once you do that, you want to start showing the early wins of that particular team so that it gives momentum and influence to other teams. So again, we want to find innovators and early adapters, build the critical mass and silent majority. So basically, we don't want to broadcast this through to everyone. It can be very dangerous and political. And so we want to identify holdouts, like who's likely to resist and tackle this group after a silently majority has been achieved. So basically, once we have established this in a couple of teams and we've shown successes, then we can come in with a little bit of information to those that are less likely to adapt and show them, hey, this is really working, this is really awesome, and are more likely to get on board at that point. Expanding the DevOps across the organization is not a small task, and it requires courage. But when we start small, it gives us momentum and more people to back us. And so this is the plan for getting that started in our organizations. So concluding in this chapter, Peter Drucker said, little fish learn to be big fish in little ponds. By choosing carefully where and how to start, we're able to experiment and learn in areas of our organization that create value without jeopardizing the rest of the organization. We really enjoyed going over this chapter and learned a lot, and hopefully you did too from watching this. Let us know if you have any questions. We look forward to doing another presentation. Thank you.